Praise be the Messiah, brothers and sisters in faith, as today we are going to be taking a look at the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrims in 30k 3.0 Horus Heresy. Now, quite recently, I have played a game of 3000 points with Mechanicum, and I have actually fielded these bad boys with their leader, Skitarii Battle-Pilgrim Marshal. And I must say, I have been quite positively surprised by how they performed and what they did on the battlefield. I was playing against Iron Warriors, for your information. And they are they easily go under the radar, considering how many units we have that have a good damage output against Armor 3 or even Armor 2, in some cases, Marines. I will be also making another video about my game and what worked and what didn't work, and where we struggled the most, in my opinion. But that'll be a separate video, and we're gonna focus on the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrims for now. Now, also, please do let me know which format do you prefer, because I am still looking for a format that I would like to show you in my next videos. This one, it will be more of a slideshow, kinda like a Ospec Tactics video. Kinda. Or if you prefer the top-down view of the camera on the actual datasheet of the journal or the Liber that we have done previously, or if you prefer the new Recruit website where we go through the datasheet there. But we'll try something new, we'll see how it works, and if it doesn't, we'll swap to something else. Now, we're gonna look at the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrims, as I said, and there will be four main parts we'll be looking at. That one will be their stat line, their abilities and traits, their war gear options, and the role and my opinion of the unit. Now, their stat line is quite weak comparing to the other units in our Liber Mechanicum. And even in this journal, I'm looking at the Journal Tactica of the Skitarii, the Steel Hand of Mars. I actually have it also open in front of me. And their stat line seems to be quite weak, but there are some nice little surprises here and there. So, movement 6, weapon skill of 3, the Ordinator, which is the sergeant of the squad, has a movement of 4, weapon skill of 4, ballistic skill of 3, strength 3, toughness 4. Now here's a little surprise, because they have actually 2 wounds, which got my opponent off guard, because he assumed they were all that wounds 1, and he put the regular bolters into them, and they were surprisingly tanky. Their initiative 3 with 2 attacks, the Ordinator has 3 attacks. Their leadership 7, the Ordinator is leadership 8. They're cool 8, willpower 8, intelligence 7, 4-up save, 6-up invul. This is quite, as I said, weak stat line, but it's not, the role on their battlefield actually makes sense once we get to their traits. And why the stat line and the points cost, I think, work. So, as you see, nothing too crazy, right? But let's move along. Abilities and traits. They have +2, they have Skitarii, keyword, and they have Allegiance, which, okay, so Allegiance, Traitor, Loyalist, simple. Skitarii, you get to pick one of 4 abilities, which we will get to in the last part of this video, but this is an important thing to remember. This ability is what makes the unit work, in my opinion. And +2 basically means that if you're charging or you're rushing, you add +2 to your result, to your dice roll. Nothing crazy, yet again, but the Skitarii part is what actually makes them work. +2 is not particularly great, because you won't be charging with them unless you're in a pinch, of course, but you know, it's a nice little thing to have, and it works with how their models look like. You know, skinny, long legs, you would assume they're quick. So the rules here actually, I feel like, match the tone of the aesthetic of the unit. Now, war gear. They have a couple of options, nothing crazy though. They have Voltlock Arquebus is their default weapon they start with. It's range 20, firepower 2, so 2 shots, at strength 5, with AP 5, damage 1, and they have the flag rate 5. The trait is it's a Volkite weapon. Range 20 is nice, it's not terrible. Firepower of 2 again, pretty good. Strength 5 is nice. AP 5, well, that's the issue with this weapon, because any power armor it'll be very hard for you to kill anything that is in power armor. Like, you'll get a marine or two, don't get me wrong, with 2 shots a guy, but it's not great. Damage 1, again, you know, anything with 1 wound, if any of your 2 shots per guy goes through, it'll kill a marine. The flag rate 5 means basically if you score a wound on the enemy unit or model, you make another wound roll with a strength of 5. So, you know, there's a chance of, let's say, 5 of your wounds go through and you kill 5 marines, you have 5 more attacks to roll again. Ignoring the hit roll, just a one roll straight away, I believe. Now, the Ordinator gets to pick 2 options. He can have the Voltlock handgun, basically the same as the Arquebus, but its range is halved, its firepower is halved, and has a pistol keyword, and has an assault trait. The Ordinator can also take a Power Sword for free, which is a standard Power Sword. Initiative modifier, nothing. Attacks modifier, nothing. Strength modifier, nothing. AP 3, damage 1, breaching 6. So Ordinator has 3 attacks at weapon skill 4. It's not bad. But these 2 options come as a upgrade to Ordinator, or as a war gear option for free. Instead of, you can take its Arquebus for a little bit more of firepower if you want. Then we have Rat Chargers, 2 points per model. Rat Chargers are strength, range 8, firepower 1, strength 4, no AP, damage 1, but they have Phage T on their assault, which means they reduce the target's toughness by 1. Then they also have same points cost upgrade of 2 points per model for Haywire Grenades. Range 8, firepower 1, strength 4, no AP, damage 1, but it has shock. And shock stunned, which I believe works on the vehicles. Not too bad, but I wouldn't honestly I wouldn't give them any grenades or the charges, and I'll keep them just with the Arquebus, because the grenades are a nice thing to have if you have spare points, but in Mechanicum army you usually don't have spare points. What do we have next? Their role, and including my opinions. This is the important part. Because one of the 4 abilities that they get to pick as part of their Skitarii keyword or trait is Acquisitor. All models with the Acquisitor trait, excluding vehicle, gain line 1. So out of nowhere, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is our first or second line unit that is relatively cheap and is surprisingly tanky. That's how I run them. With line 1 in my first game with them, and that line 1 actually won me the game because I won by 1 point, by a singular point. It was 27-26. So the line 1 actually was part of the victory, right? Because I actually did plop them on an objective for 2 turns, so they gave me 2 extra points with the line 1. Next, we have Expurgator, however you want to pronounce it. It gives you Vanguard 3. Now this is also pretty good if you're building a list that is very aggressive, but remember these models, the Skitarii models here, are not necessarily great damage dealers, but it's an option that you have, right? If you want to run more of them, or if you want to run a full Skitarii Conclave army list, Vanguard is an option you have. Next option. Now this is a specific option, Vindictor, that only the Loyalist can pick. Basically what it does is your deflagrate weapons get +1. So instead of having deflagrate 5, you have deflagrate 6. So that means your wound rolls, the wound rolls that you have dealt, any wound rolls that you have dealt and that has caused damage, you get to roll another dice, per damage, and instead of rolling with strength 5, you roll with strength 6. Will make a difference. Then, only for the traitors, we have a Scourger. It gives you +1 to your setup move and to a maximum of 6, meaning it makes it easier for you to charge. Which, those two options, Vindictor and Scourger, I think are the weakest. The Expurgator, I think, has potential, but I prefer the Acquisitor, personally. Because we do actually lack, I feel like, or maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like we do lack a cheap, reliable, tanky, with some sort of a damage potential unit that can hold objectives. Now, it's only line 1. So don't get too excited about it, but it can make a difference, and in my game, it did make a difference. I will be posting the pictures from the game and the pictures, actually, here are some pictures of my painted models. And I will be posting the pictures from my game in a separate video, that as I will be going over it to show you what and tell you what exactly happened, because I have also tested the new unit, well, quote-unquote, the new unit, the Myrmidons, the Destructor host. I ran a full 6-man squad in an Apex detachment with our Archmagos leading them. And I have also tried the new unit, the Half-Life 2 model, the Skitarii Vulturax Stratos Automata. And my initial impressions were mixed. In the first few turns, I didn't use them how I'm supposed to use them. But after the 3rd turns, I have learned how to use the 2 units. And I must say that the Stratos Automata has potential to be very disruptive. But we're not talking about the Automata right now, we're talking about the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrims, Corpus to be more precise. I ran a unit of 9 with the Ordinator. So that costed me 7, 8, 9, 10, 100... 120 points, I believe, because it's 10 points per model. I run 110. 110 model, 110 points, led by the Battle Pilgrim Marshal, additional 100 points. So in total, it costed me 210 points, but I also had the Voltlock handgun on the Marshal, which meant it was 215 points combo. Now, the Marshal is not... I don't think he is a must include. I think we'll talk about him in a separate video when we do a separate look at the Marshal. But I don't think he's necessary. His buff is average. And his war gear options are also average. I don't think he's necessary. I think he's a nice thing to have if you wanna be more lore friendly, lore accurate with your units. But the Battle Pilgrim Corpus on its own, 210 points, pretty good. I had an objective on one of my flanks, and I've deployed them on that flank. I rushed them to the objective, and I was managing to score the points with line and for controlling the objective for the first 2 turns. They were being supported by the Castellac Destructor Maniple, 6-man squad, sorry, 5-man squad, as they were taking out the Predator tanks on my flank. Now, then my opponent decided to move his Spartan tank and to disembark his Terminators. I think they were Cataphracti Terminators, and his Warsmith, or his Warlord. And then, because he wanted to charge my Skitarii. But I used the reaction to reposition them, and I pulled them back, causing my opponent to change his target towards my Ursarax cohort, which he shot at. I removed the closest models, and he failed his charge by half an inch. So, technically, I kind of baited him into going into my Battle Pilgrim Corpus, pulling them back, while still staying on the objective. It was literally like a difference of like a 1 or 2 inch. But it was important enough to where they were fast enough where they could fall back before being charged, and then proceeded to assist my other units in wiping out his Terminator unit that plopped in. Now, I did a last-ditch attempt to stop his Warsmith, because I did kill the Terminators that were his bodyguard with 9 deep striked Talax cohort with plasma fuses, and a tank Cryos Venator. Actually, we will have to talk about tanks in the next video, because I have been so utterly devastated by how weak the tanks were that I will be removing the tanks from my list and I'll be going just pure infantry and automata. Because the Cryos Venator and the one with the barrage weaponry, I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, disappointed me immeasurably. And we'll get to them at some point, but I was very disappointed. But yeah, I threw them in for the charge, and the fast 2 came into play, and they managed to tie down the enemy warlord long enough to where he couldn't cut through all of them because of their 2 wounds. And surprisingly, you know, 6-up invul is nothing crazy, but at least that day I at least rolled 1 every time he asked me to make save rolls, which meant that with 2 wounds they were actually living quite long, and they did bog him down for 2 turns on that side objective while my Castellax Destructor Mantle was beside it, getting points from the controller, and with their Darkfire Lances they were sniping his vehicles. So they did their job as a tar pit unit, but before they became the tar pit unit, they were a good line holder unit, because even his marines that were coming out, the tacticals, I were shooting at them, he couldn't just chew through all of the units, which I was very surprised. I think they're absolutely worth it. Even at 100 points, if you don't want to take any extra, you will have an Ordinator and 7 Skitarii, so 8 models. I don't think Marshal is necessary. They are a good unit, surprisingly good unit. I think they won't kill the enemy, your opponents, but not every unit has to be a killing unit. This is the 40k problem, where every unit has to have some sort of a killing potential. This unit can dish out enough damage where I feel like it can make a difference in some scenarios. They are tanky enough to where it will catch your enemy off guard. They are relatively cheap for a Mechanicum unit, and I honestly think if you have them, field them. 1 SWAT of 8 with Acquisitor, or if you're going full aggression, or you just build full Ursax cohort army and Castellax Destructor army, and you just want to go in there, go in hard and take objectives, put the Expurgator on them. But even then, I actually feel like the Acquisitor would be still better, because you could have your Ursax and other units with Vanguard push through, push the enemy units off the objectives, move your units towards the other objective while they come in and they hold the line. Literally, line 1, and they hold the objective, right? So I think this is a good unit. I have been pleasantly surprised. Now, we will have to, in the next video, we will have to talk about the Vulturax Stratos Automata, 100 points as well. I have been at first disappointed, but then when I realized its role, I love this unit. I must say, I really do love this unit. I don't think I'll be checking out any of the Skitarii tanks, because not much changes for them, and as I said, the Cryos battle tank, and I believe it was the Karachnos, have actually disappointed me so heavily. I'm pretty content with removing the tanks from my list and adding a second 6-man squad of Myrmidons, led by maybe a Tech Priest. Because at 405 points, while yes, expensive, there are toughness 5 with 4 wounds, and if you put Darkfire cannons on them, they fuck, and they fuck hard. I had a Tartaros Terminator squad that my 6-man Myrmidon Destructor host targeted in the first turn after I seized the initiative. Lucky roll, but you know, it happens. I seized the initiative and I targeted all 6 Darkfire cannons after getting the the guide buff on them, and they one-tapped the entire unit. Now, that didn't make their points back, but it was enough of a blow to my enemy where he had to actually commit a lot of resources to wiping out the Destructor house. And even then, in a 4-turn game, it took him 3 turns to wipe out the entire unit. I think at 405 points, not counting the cost of the HQ or the leader attached to them, I also think that Myrmidons are worth it. Expensive as fuck, yes, but if you put them against the right target, they will, as their name suggests, destroy it. But we'll talk about it in the different video. This was the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrim. This was the Skitarii Battle-Pilgrims overview. My feelings on them, their stat lines, their special rules, and their traits. Also their war gear, and I will give them a solid 8 out of 10 if I had to rank them on a 10 point their scale, where 10 is amazing, 1 is garbage. I would give them an 8 out of 10. If they were cheaper, I think that'd be too good. If they had more war gear options, I think it'd be very hard to balance. So I'm happy where they are. They do kind of remind me of 40k Skitarii, which is, I feel like, it's kind of the point. Now, they are of a different role than 40k Skitarii, I feel like. But it's a different game as well, different system, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, stamp of approval, and that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Praise be the Omnissiah.